Hello and welcome to the Watering Hole. Thanks for checking out this clip. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that'll make the baby Jesus cry, and I know how much you guys love making the baby Jesus cry. Hello and welcome to my channel. Vice Rhino here. This evening I am joined by Rudy of X-Cult Baby. Hello, Rudy.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so we got a pretty heavy stream tonight, so I thought we'd start things light. First off, I would like to point out that I am using the stream as a fundraiser for, oh, I always say it wrong. Where are we? The Brigid Alliance. It's an organization that what they do right now is they help pay for people's travel expenses who need abortions. So like for people who live in restrictive states like Texas, where Texas, it's illegal to travel for an abortion, I guess. Whatever. I'm not going
to catch you.
I am not giving legal advice one way or another. I am not going to make recommendations about breaking the law. However, they do help pay for people's travel expenses, and I think they do operate in Texas. So we're fundraising for them this evening. So do not... I mean, I'll still like read super chats if you send me super chats and stuff, but like donate to them first. I'll match the first 500, and I'll try to remember to say this at the beginning of every segment because I'm having my fundraiser go for 18 days. That should be enough time for the live stream and for me to divide the live stream up into chunks and upload the chunks onto my other channel, The Watering Hole. If you're not subscribed, go subscribe over there. So if you're watching this in the Watering Hole archives, as long as it's like within a couple days of it going up, the fundraiser is still going. It's a very needed thing right now. So go ahead and donate there. Rudy, how are you?
I am doing just fabulous. My husband and I just saw Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Spoiler-free review. It was definitely strange and definitely mad.
Like mad as in angry or mad as in...
Mad as in madness.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I haven't really been keeping up with the Marvel-verse anymore.
That's fair. Most real adults have given up on that by now. But
are you accusing me of being a real adult?
I will
not stand for it. I will not stand for it. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Rudy is my dungeon master. We play Dungeons and Dragons on Fridays, and before the stream, I asked them to make some ridiculous thumbnail faces for me to use in thumbnails or whatever. And in my direction for one of the thumbnail faces was, make the face that you made when you found out that my character in D&D was really serious about staring at that ridiculous rock for like half an hour. I distracted the whole party with it, because on the map the rock looked, I forget what it even looked like, but it looked like a thing.
It was like a little statue.
Yeah, and I was like, it's going to be a magic rock. Something's going to happen with that rock. It's got to be integral to the plot of this. And the characters that we had with us, like Rose was playing an Aarakocra that was a little unstable. And so
ridiculous.
She joined in staring at the, like, oh, he's staring at the rock. There must be something going on here. So I had the whole party staring at a rock for a ridiculous amount of time. It was fun.
And the reality is I just use pre-made maps, and that map happened to have a weird shaped rock in it. And I was just like, ignore the rock. It's just a rock. Come on, move on. We got stuff to do.
All right. Dimitri says, keep up the good work. Yeah, I have the little ticker bar down there showing how many people have donated. Did I say I'd match the first 500? I think I said that.
You did say that.
Okay, so I'll match the first 500. And this little donation ticker bar thing down at the bottom should be refreshing on its own, but there is a chance that, like, if I accidentally hit the scroll wheel, it'll do that and you can't see it anymore. So, I don't know, sound off in chat if that does happen. But yeah, give to the Brigid Alliance. It's a much needed cause right now. As has become tradition on the stream, I try a new whiskey or scotch or bourbon, and this evening I'm trying Jameson's. It's cheap, and I've never tried it before.
Really?
So yeah, no, I mean it's super. Well, I mean not that I know of. It's possible that that I've been to a bar and when I said Scotch, they were just like, we're out of Scotch. They won't know if I pour the Jamesons, and they would have been right. I would not have known. Well, I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't tried it yet. Maybe I would know.
Oh. Verdict?
It's okay.
It's cheap. So
Yeah, it's not bad. But it's
yeah.
not my favorite. And yeah, I'm not sophisticated enough that I would be able to tell that apart from a Scotch if a lazy bartender didn't want to open a new bottle or something. And yes, that does happen in bars. I've worked with several bartenders that would do stuff like that, and I'd be like, "No, that's not what they asked for." And they'll never know.
If they're the kind of person that specifically asks for a specific liquor, they'll probably know.
Depends if it's in a mixed drink. Not like I have my doubts if you can tell the difference between the rail whiskey and the like first tier up from the rail whiskey in your mixed drink.
That's fair. Like, if I'm having a Moscow Mule, I probably don't know if you're using Tito's or Grey Goose. All I know is that it tastes like delicious ginger beer and lime juice, and also vodka.
So one of the places I used to work at, we actually had it wasn't a Moscow Mule. I don't think it was one of the other ginger beer drinks. I forget what it was. Oh no, you know what? It was a custom cocktail. It was one with our name, but on the menu it said there was ginger beer in it, and we didn't carry ginger beer, so they would just put ginger ale in it. And that's what I said. I said, no, that is not the same thing. No, it's the same thing. Nobody knows the difference. Like, no, just because nobody complains about it doesn't mean they don't know the difference. Like,
I would have complained if I had that and it said it had ginger beer in it. I would have been like, this is either ginger ale or the worst ginger beer ever.
Well, I never got any complaints about that because I always told people when they ordered it, like, yeah, it says ginger beer on the menu. I'm sorry, it's not ginger beer. I called it a misprint, but no, it's a lie.
Not a misprint, just a lie. But
I don't know why. Like, it's a custom cocktail. Just write ginger ale if you're going to use ginger ale. Like, you made up the cocktail. You may as well be honest about what's in it. That might even be illegal, actually.
That's so unfortunate because if I love ginger beer, love it. I like ginger ale a lot too. I love ginger beer. And if I ordered something thinking there was going to be ginger beer in it, in fact, I probably would have ordered it. Like, say you're taking my order. I'm like, ooh, this has ginger beer in it. I'll have that. And you'd be like, it's actually ginger ale. That would be legitimately disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I didn't get along with management there. So, like,
yeah, I mean, it sounds like.
Well, okay, I got along better with management there than I have in other places. Like, one of the reasons I do so well at YouTube is because I don't have a boss to argue with. So if something needs to get done the way that I want it done, it just gets done the way that I want it done.
Because you're your own boss.
Because there's stupid stuff. Like at one of the restaurants I worked at, they wanted us to ask people for TripAdvisor reviews before they got their dessert. And I'm like, okay, well, if my server came over and handed me a TripAdvisor card and be like, do you mind just leaving us a review while you wait for your dessert? I'd be like, no. And when I do leave a review, it's going to be 1 star less now because you asked me before I was done the meal.
Yeah. Like, do they think their desserts are shitty? Like, what does that mean?
Well, yeah, that was my takeaway too, is like, okay, well, I want to get your review in before we get the desserts out. Otherwise the review might fail. Like, that's what I saw. And so, like,
yeah.
I was never pushy with the reviews, and they wanted people to be pushy with the reviews, and I just can't do that. So because I didn't get the reviews, they always put me in what they thought were the bad sections, but the management was not really that bright. So what they thought were the bad sections were actually like really, really busy sections. They were just in not the most aesthetically pleasing section of the restaurant. So it's like, yeah, it's a bad section in that the people sitting there probably would have preferred to sit elsewhere, but there's more of them, so I make more money than the people with the good sections. So it's like, okay.
The good section. No, the good section is the section where you make the most money.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. No, there were several times where, like, the guy they always stuffed at the front because he could get everybody to leave a review. He actually, like, several times asked, like, hey, can I just go to the back, please? Like, I want to make some money. Put me at the back. And they were like, no, you're the good server. You go at the front. And, like, oh, it was...
That's so unfortunate.
That place was weird. I did like it. Despite what I'm saying about it, it was one of my favorite serving jobs that I had. So maybe that doesn't say much about serving jobs, if we're honest.
Yeah, I've been a server. I feel ya.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Oh, we've got $139 in. I'm sorry, there's not going to be notifications for the donations here because it's done through Facebook. They don't have... I actually contacted them when I decided to set this up as a fundraiser yesterday, and they didn't have a Tiltify account, which is the one that I used last time, that in theory you can get notifications, but I hadn't figured it out that time either. But this time it's not my fault. It's because they didn't have an account, so I'm doing it through Facebook, which I'm sorry that it's going through Facebook, but Facebook doesn't take any fees or anything for fundraisers, so it still all goes to them. Oh, and the Stream Elements bot is telling you to give me money. Just ignore that. That should be... Okay, I'm sorry. It wouldn't be one of my streams if I didn't have to like log into my account and change stuff on the fly. Chatbot, timers, donation bot.
Anytime I'm on a stream and there's not a technical difficulty, I'm thinking I must be the one that fucked up. Because if the technology didn't fuck up, then I must have fucked up. Because all live streams have to have at least a little bit of a fuck up, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah, it just... Oopsies. Okay, so it's supposed to be rotating through and do like one for me and one for the donation pool or whatever, but I just changed it. So it should just be asking for the donation thingy right now.
Excellent.
Okay. So shall we get into the articles?
I thought we'd just shoot the shit for a while. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Let's do it.
Yeah, that could be fun. Did you watch the stream with Cirrus and I?
I did not.
Oh, we were so unhinged. It just like all over the place. It ended up being a thing where like I ended up cutting out like every time we went on a completely unrelated rabbit trail, I just cut that section out and put them together in their own video. There was 45 minutes of that on an hour and a half stream. Excellent.
Wow, beautiful.
It was a lot of fun, but like we had to rush through the article.
Because you were just too busy shooting the shit, which is great.
Well, it actually resulted in my favorite cold open for any of my videos was like after the initial like, oh, please like and subscribe to this channel or whatever, that goes away. And the first thing you hear is me just, shut the fuck up.
That's you know what that reminds me of is us playing D&D. I'm like, oh, everybody's getting together. Oh, we haven't seen each other in like 3 weeks because our schedules have been all messed up and we haven't been able to play. How's life? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I have a game prepared, people. Let's go. Let's go. I'm so glad you got a puppy. Let's go.
Now, in my defense in those situations, you guys are basically the only adults I talk to verbally when I'm not like streaming.
So you guys are also most of my social contact.
And because I like the time is like you guys have kind of scheduled the whole thing around when I'm available. And so it's like as soon as I'm done putting the kids to bed, I hop on D&D and I'm already late because kid bedtime happens. Okay, Knight's Shroud. I recognize that name. I saw a comment earlier that you made that I kind of wanted to talk about. So this might be interesting. Rhino, I need your opinion on two arguments. One, that the 10th Amendment applies here and this is a states' right issue. And two, the courts shouldn't have ruled on this as it should have been legislation. I think we're going to address those. Now, I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm not terribly familiar with the American Constitution. So
yeah, you're also not American.
Yeah, so. I can't tell you what the 10th Amendment is off the top of my head. Like I know the big ones that everybody talks about. Like the First Amendment is the Free Speech Establishment Clause. Second is the guns. Fifth is the it's not just the right against self-incrimination. That's also the one I think that spouses don't have to testify against each other.
Yeah. I only know that one because you got the phrase I plead the fifth.
And we have what's funny is we have a similar thing in Canada, but like a lot of Canadians know it as I plead the fifth, but I can't even tell you which one it is in the Canadian charter, but it like we do have one specifically for that, and you can plead that particular section of the charter,
but you still say
but nobody knows it. Yeah, it's still I plead the fifth because popular culture or whatever. But so yeah, Knight's Shroud said earlier, and I think this is probably what you're getting at, is that if Roe versus Wade gets overturned, it's not going to end abortion. It's just going to remand it to the states and make it a states decision. And I think you had said earlier that like for most states, it's not going to change, but there are dozens of states. Like I think the number's over 25. I forget the exact number, but I was seeing somewhere.
You don't
around
remember
30.
how many states there are?
There's 50 states. I'm saying there's somewhere in between 20 and 30 states that already have anti-abortion legislation that should Roe versus Wade be overturned, it will automatically revert to that, and it's more restrictive. So that's like more than half. So that I might have the number of states wrong on that. I don't have it right in front of me, and I'm not good at remembering numbers. But it's not an insignificant number. Anyway, let's pop up to the article. So I've got the Politico article up. That's the original one where the news broke. And I do want to discuss a couple things with this. Number one, nothing has changed right now. This is a draft decision. It's not taking effect until probably June. So if you are currently pregnant and you have an appointment, keep the appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So because it's not time to cancel appointments. Don't start. Well, I mean, start freaking out. But if you can get it done before June, then get it done before June. And if you need help with travel expenses, maybe check out the Bridget Alliance. They might be able to help with that. And if you
donate,
if you have some funds, pop some down below. I will be matching the first 500. We're at 139.
I plan on donating. Of course, obviously, I'm in the fundraiser, but I have to check my budget first because we're a little tight this month. But it's like, what's more important? A couple of trips for fast food or like helping people get the health care that they need?
Yeah. So that's the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk about with this is that it's not in effect yet. So like there's still some time if you are in a situation where you need an abortion. Scott Dillahunt is saying stock up on Plan B. I heard, I don't know how accurate this is, but I heard it stays good in the cupboard for 5 years. But then also there's, I got a lot of stuff highlighted that I'm not going to talk about tonight because there's other stuff that came up since then that I want to discuss. But the other thing I kind of want to get to with this is that this is his reasoning for the decision. Alito's reasoning was basically it was so utterly ridiculous. Like, have you read any of the any of the actual draft?
So funny story. I had some personal shit going on when the news broke. And I was so hyperfixated on that, I had an anxiety attack at work the next day. And you'd think it was because of the Roe v. Wade thing, but no. It was because my dad called me the night before. Well, he called my husband, and I haven't heard from him in over a year, and he didn't come to our wedding, and I had all these thoughts. So I was so overwhelmed by that, but I was almost kind of relieved because I was like, I could be freaking out about Roe v. Wade right now, but I'm not. I'm freaking out about something else that's a lot smaller and a lot more manageable for me personally. And then when I'm done with that, I will freak out about Roe v. Wade. So I actually haven't gotten around to reading it yet.
Yeah, sorry. Everybody in the chat has just started saying echo. I actually noticed immediately before everybody was saying echo that I had 2 little lines going in my audio thing while you were talking, and I fixed it before I saw them saying echo.
You're a genius.
I did a thing right.
You're ahead of the game.
Yeah, so you've been busy, so you didn't really have time. So I haven't read the whole thing. It's 100 pages long. That's a short novel.
Yeah, I've just looked up the summaries.
Yeah. So, but one of the things that he goes through, there are several pages where he's citing precedent, and the main thrust of his argument was that the right to bodily autonomy is not part of our history. It's not part of our tradition in the States. And to prove that, he went back and cited laws going back all the way to the 14th century. And like, yeah, in the 14th century, women didn't have a right to well, nobody really had a right to bodily autonomy. You know who else
Yeah, it's
didn't
like,
have a right to
well,
bodily autonomy? The slaves.
yeah, like, oh,
You
you
know,
want to talk about not having you're right, absolutely. But we overturned those things because it was
yeah.
fucked up.
Yeah. No, it's like
So,
you if you want it if you want something that's a part, like, these guys are originalists. So their whole thing is that the Constitution needs to be interpreted the way that the founders meant it to be interpreted. First off, that's dumb. Times change.
hot
Secondly,
take, I don't give a damn what a bunch of old white slave owner dudes really thought.
yeah.
Totally glad that they made the country that I live in exist.
Well, here's
Otherwise, I don't really care
here's the thing
what they
though.
thought.
What the founders like, how they thought the Constitution should be interpreted was as a living document that was subject to change. That's why they had procedures in place for changing it.
Right. As much as I disagreed with their opinions at the time, they were like, well, down the road, things are probably going to be different because, we know how history works. That's how it works. So let's make room for that to happen.
Yeah, there are people in the chat saying the U.S. didn't exist in the 14th century. I'm aware of that. He went back to Britain for American traditions. So make that make sense.
That's
It's like, you know what tradition didn't really fly with England when the states formed? The whole violent rebellion thing.
yeah.
Like, that was
What?
a bit of a break from tradition, was it not?
American tradition is like anti-British tradition.
Yeah.
Well, except for the colonizing. But
Yeah.
yeah, besides
I mean,
that.
yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, American and Canadian culture it gets a lot from England and the UK,
Mhm.
because we were British colonies at one point. It's bound to happen. But yeah, it's actually interesting to look and see, like, the differences in Canadian culture and American culture based on, like, well, Canada separated peacefully from the UK. Arguably, that couldn't have happened without the American Revolution first, because they didn't want another one.
Yeah. They were like, we lost that one. We've kind of seen how this plays out. We'll pass.
Let's let them do it and pretend that it was a mutual thing. But yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like, it's interesting to examine the cultures. But anyways, what I wanted to get into is that since this Roe versus Wade overturn thing, to get back to that point earlier about this being remanded to the states and the states get to decide things, Louisiana, it hasn't passed their House yet. It passed a committee. I forget what committee. But it's House Bill number 813. Abortion enacts the Abolition of Abortion in Louisiana Act of 2022 is what it's called. It's a weird title, but it's kind of clunky. Now, I have read through this whole thing. I am not a lawyer, so there's a good chance I've got some things in here wrong. But there's some stuff in here that is very obviously should not be in legal documents that are meant to be made into law. So, like, for instance, where is it? It's in here somewhere. Ah, there we go. Section 2, acknowledgement of the sanctity of innocent human life created in the image of God, which should be equally protected from fertilization to natural death. The legislature hereby declares that the purpose of this act is to fully recognize the human personhood of an unborn child at all stages of development prior to birth from the moment of fertilization. So much going on here. So much going on. First off, created in the image of God. What the fuck is that doing in a bill?
Yeah, it should not be. It should not be. I mean, it's so blatantly.
It doesn't get, like, the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment is like Congress shall. I don't know the exact phrasing, but like it's phrased very legalistically in a way that I've always felt it kind of weird that, like, a teacher praying with students counts as making a law respecting the establishment of religion, because that's not making a law. Like, obviously there's legalese crap going on here that I'm not a lawyer, so I don't fully comprehend it. But, like, it applies in those situations. But, like, this is actually making a law.
It's a very literal version of that, and we're letting that's gonna fly. That's already passed by people's hands, and they were like, yeah, we're down for that.
I mean, it was a committee that had like less than 10 people on it, so we'll see how it goes in the House and the Senate and when the governor gets it and whatever. But it's
Also,
Louisiana, so I'm not really.
and as we were slightly discussing earlier, if you're including the moment of fertilization,
Yeah, that's the next
people
thing.
are gonna get arrested for having a period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm
you have a
after
period
they've
after
had
you have
sex.
you have sex. You have a period. I like if I flush if it were physically possible, if I flush one of my kids down the toilet right now and they die, I go to prison. So if you have sex and then you have a period and that is in the toilet at some point, you give it a flush. You've just flushed a living human being down the toilet according to this bill.
Yeah, that makes no sense. I also just find it weird that, with this being a legal definition, you're basically giving it to politicians to decide something that is very obviously a scientific matter.
Yeah.
Like, when is a person a person? Like, that has nothing to do with law.
Oh,
And codifying
and
that into law just on an arbitrary basis of like, we've decided it starts here.
oh, we haven't even
Okay.
we haven't even gotten into the beginning of how heinous this is. So, see, nobody's donating to the fundraiser. People donate now. Um,
Donate, donate.
People in Louisiana need help. um, yeah. So, okay, what was I going to say? Yeah. So, if a fertilized egg at any stage is considered a fully developed, like fully recognize the human personhood of an unborn child at all stages of development prior to birth from the moment of fertilization. Ensure that the right to life and equal protection of the laws to all unborn children from the moment of fertilization by protecting them by the same laws protecting other human beings. Do you know what that means? That means if you are pregnant and you are in an abusive relationship and you leave, he can then press charges for you kidnapping his child
That's crazy.
because that child is a full human person with all the other.
And you took it with you,
Yeah.
you sick fuck.
Yeah. So that literally legally traps someone in an abusive relationship because they can't kidnap their child because like they can't leave without the child. They have no choice. It's inside them. There's so much wrong here. And they also, let's see. So they also have a couple of statutes in here that I'm pretty sure they can't possibly be like they can't be legal to make these laws, but they have things in here. Oh, let's see where I can find it. But like there's stuff in here that's basically like, even if the Supreme Court does not overturn Roe versus Wade, we say no, we're doing it anyway. Like that's the oh yeah, here we go. Any federal statute, regulation, treaty, executive order, or court ruling that purports to supersede, stay, or overrule this section shall be in violation of the United States Constitution and the Constitution of Louisiana and is therefore void. So they've got a preemptive nuh-uh in the bill.
But it's not unconstitutional though, so nuh-uh to your nuh-uh.
Yeah, it's like, it's unconstitutional for you to apply the Constitution to our bill. What?
Who wrote this shit?
We both took a sip at the same time. That was bad timing.
Hey.
It's like 10 seconds of us both swallowing and clearing our mouths so we could talk again.
I was also making funny faces at the same time, at least.
Fair. That's fair. But yeah, so this is the kind of thing that red states are going to be doing now. They've been emboldened.
Yep. And that's all not to mention the fact that, as soon as they are that emboldened, it's marriage equality's next. It's on the chopping block.
Oh, absolutely. It was basically explicitly said in the in the draft. Like the way he was, I forget which case it was, but the case that which one was it? I forget which one it was, but there was one of the cases that he's basically saying this doesn't count as precedent anymore. That there were so many rulings based on that precedent that followed from it. And it was like everything from interracial marriages to segregation to like just anything you could imagine. Actually, it might have just been Roe. Like that's the right to privacy thing. It was the right to privacy. And he like listed all of these things that he's saying this explicitly will not overturn any of these other rulings, which I call bullshit on that. I don't believe him for a second. But conspicuously, he left out the Obergefell ruling from the list of things that would not be overturned by their overturning of Roe versus Wade. So it's pretty much explicitly on the chopping block next. And then this bill right here, this makes some forms of contraceptive illegal because some of them prevent the implantation of a fertilized embryo.
That's true.
So that, like, taking your birth control pill could be punishable by, like, you could go to jail for homicide if you take a birth control pill in Louisiana, should this pass.
I live in Ohio. I have a feeling they're going to follow suit with a lot of that bullshit. Like, Ohio is like the southernest northern state.
Yeah. Okay, I got a couple super chats to get to. I don't know why you guys are giving me money instead of the charity. Although we're up to 171 now, so we got 4 people donated. Need more. Give them more. Night Shroud again says, regardless of religious undertones, define specifically when humans begin to have rights. Also, I hate to say this to you, but straw man, fleeing abuse or violence would likely fall under self-defense. Yeah, but when you flee under self-defense, you're not allowed to kidnap someone while you do it. So if you flee with someone else attached to you, like it doesn't matter if like, oh yeah, they would probably not prosecute that sort of thing. The fact that it's still illegal is massively problematic. And
the argument could be made, and even if it's a bad argument, the fact that it is even on the table is bad.
Yeah, it shouldn't even be an option. Whether like it's like blasphemy laws. Like countries are repealing their blasphemy laws, or they have been for a while now. And some people have been saying, well, what's the point? Why are you wasting time on that? Nobody enforces them anyway. It's like, okay, yeah, nobody enforces them, but they shouldn't even be on the books.
Yeah, like the fact that there are bad laws that we keep around is still bad, even if they're not being enforced. Like, I think that in the same way that, you know, there's a difference between being not racist and being anti-racist, there's a difference between, well, we don't enforce those rules versus, no, we specifically think those rules are bad and shouldn't even be rules. Even if we didn't acknowledge them before, we need to acknowledge openly that they're bad and get rid of them.
Yeah, and as to when humans begin to have rights, when they're born. Now, I think end of the second trimester is when the brain starts to develop to the point where like something resembling consciousness starts to emerge. So I think that more consideration should be given to the fetus in the third trimester. But like the vast, vast majority of third trimester abortions are because of some massive medical problem, like the baby didn't develop a brain and it's dangerous to keep it inside the woman for the rest of the term and stuff like that.
At third trimester, basically the baby and or the mother aren't going to survive. That's the kind of abortions you get at third trimester.
But like even like regardless of brain development, it's a matter of bodily autonomy. Like I cannot be forced to give my kidney to someone who needs a kidney, even if that person will die if I don't give them my kidney. It's the same thing with a pregnancy. Like the baby is using the woman's body or the person's body.
Yeah, and at whichever point they don't necessarily need that body to survive, great, more power to you. Get on out of there, buddy. Live your little life.
The only super chats I'm getting are people that want to argue with me. Which,
you know, I mean, those are the real debate people because they're literally paying money.
I guess that's fair though, because everybody who doesn't want to debate with me is just giving money to the charity, so that's fair.
Yeah.
So Michael Acuff, I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong, says if life doesn't begin at fertilization, when is life? I think I just kind of answered that. Then assumptions, women can't leave with the man's child, then why can he have no say in aborting his child? Because it's not his body.
'Cause it's not in him.
But also,
It's not his body that's being affected by the child.
But also, in most abortion scenarios, it's married women that already have children. Most abortions are performed on people that already have kids. So they are probably in a stable relationship. They have probably talked it over with their partner. So a lot, like if you're in a stable relationship, usually that's a discussion that happens. Ultimately, the final say should absolutely go to the person who's pregnant because it's their body.
Yeah, like if I were in this scenario, of course I would talk to my partner about it. But at the end of the day, you know, he doesn't have the power to veto me because everything that happens regarding the pregnancy is going to happen to me, not to him.
Yeah, pregnancy is dangerous.
I saw some pictures a little while ago of somebody giving birth. Like it was a close up on the head coming out of the coochie. And I was like, no, never. No.
Yeah, so I was in the room when they did a C-section on for my first, yeah, they let me watch, and like at one point during the procedure, it's like, oh, her insides are on her outside now, and they need to tuck that back in before they sew her up and stuff. It's like, oh, and what's really weird though is like I'm kind of a squeamish guy. I feel like I haven't fainted, but I feel faint when I see like certain amounts of blood. And so, like I have this little scar on my, well, I'm not even gonna bother, you won't see it on the camera, but like I ran over a metal pair of tongs with a lawnmower once that was just hiding in the long grass, and it shot it out the back, and it went like it's just this little tiny cut, but it went all the way down to the bone. As soon as I saw the bone, it was just like, oh no, I can't drive myself to the hospital for stitches, you're gonna need to drive me.
Oh Lord. Were all three of your kids C-sections or just the first one?
The first one and the last one. The middle one was what's called a VBAC, so vaginal birth after cesarean. And he actually probably should have been a C-section. He had to be resuscitated as soon as he was born. Now that wasn't necessary, but because the other two were C-sections because they were breech. He was not breech, so that's why they let it go through. And then generally after 2 C-sections, they don't like it if you go back to vaginal because there's a chance of ripping open your old wounds. Yeah,
bad move, probably.
Yeah. I mean, some doctors don't even like it if you do it after 1, but it's doable. That's one of those things where you talk to your doctor about because it might be different for different people.
Okay. Thanks for the medical advice.
No, my medical advice is talk to your doctor. I'm not giving medical advice.
Yeah, I know. That's the medical advice. Talk to your doctor.
Yeah, so I'm not giving legal advice. I'm not giving medical advice. How many disclaimers do we need on this episode?
Oh, no.
We ain't doctors. We ain't lawyers.